to the tech people and call the Finance Committee meeting back from recess. Excuse me. And next up is our county clerk, Lisa Brown. Welcome. Sorry for the couple-minute delay, but business, you know. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess I just want to start off by first thanking my staff again. They just do an outstanding job. The dedication to the people that we serve is just top notch, and I'm just so proud of my team. So I always want to start with that because they do such a phenomenal job, and I just always want to voice my appreciation for them. For new commissioners, and just as a reminder to not new commissioners, last year we were asked to make cuts or reductions, I guess I should say, in our budget. And I did that by reducing some line items. I also eliminated some positions, including my second deputy clerk position that would be in admin, which was a big deal, but I don't believe in being top heavy, and it's more important to me that I have staff do the jobs that are required to be done in my office than having people here in administration. So, if it means taking on more stuff for me and Fred and Valerie, then that's that. So, but in doing that, it made it a little harder, I guess, for this year, since this year we were asked to reduce specifically salary expenditures by 3 to 4%. What is it, 10 up to 10% or at 10% within the next 5 years. So I would say, especially, it's not easy to do as a constitutional office. Almost every single thing that my staff does is required by law. There's not a lot of free space here as to what we do. The things that we offer, the services that we offer that are not required by law would be the veteran's ID card and passports. Everything else basically that we do is required by law. So hard to limit or reduce your workforce on tasks that you are required to fulfill by law. And then we have the state court administrative office, as well as the legislature, throwing more job duties at us. So with that being said, we did cut 5 positions. One cashier, which is now called something else, financial services technician. And so job descriptions have been changed because, I don't know, I guess it's because of the JQ, but so now they're called, so what was always called like an office assistant 2 is now an office support clerk senior, and we cut 4 of those positions. And that adds up to almost $310,000 in reductions in our in that line item. I did offer and ask multiple times if we could cut our summer positions. We have 2 of those. And I was told no, because even though those positions are, it's a weird thing, even though they fall in my office, they're paid out of HR's budget or something. So I don't have the authority to cut them, but we would be very comfortable with the elimination of those 2 positions. I've put that out there many times. So anyways, and in the next year, there'll be another position that I will be comfortable eliminating, and that is one in micrographics. We have started a new service down there, and right now I have a micrographics operator 1, and I have those names changed, but I'm still going to use the old ones. Micrographics operator 1 and a micrographics operator 2. And the difference being, of course, job duties. But now that my staff is doing a completely different service, basically, and I'll get into that in a minute, if they're all doing the same job duties, then I can eliminate the micrographics 1 position because they'll all be doing the micrographics operator 2 job duties. So, and if not, then we can eliminate a micrographics operator 2 position and keep the 1 and the 1. So we're waiting to see how that whole process goes. And what we're doing is we are taking images that have been saved on microfilm, microfiche, and turning those into digital images. And we are doing that for other departments. We're doing work for Treasurer's Office. We're doing work for WRC, and it is saving those departments a lot of money. It costs my department money to do it, where we haven't been able to charge other departments for the services that we provide them. I always kind of get a weird answer because, I mean, I know I get charged by IT, I get charged by facilities, I get charged by all the other county departments for everything that they provide us. But for some reason, we can't charge for the things that we do. And some of those departments did look to see what it would cost for them to have an outside source do the service. And again, and it was way more than, well, since we're not even charging them, but even if we were to charge them, it's a huge it's a huge cost savings for them. As far as VSIP, we had 2 supervisors that took that and retired. Again, I'm not a top-heavy structured organization. Those aren't positions that can be eliminated. We don't have a lot of supervisors, and we need our supervisors. So we did fill those within. And we have 3, I believe it's 3 more employees that will be taking the VSIP over the next 2 years. So in total, we'll have had 5 people when all is said and done that took the VSIP. As far as our vacant positions, we had 2 people who retired right when COVID started. And we've had employees that were, I'm trying to say it nicely, poached isn't nice, but whatever. There are other departments that seem to hire a lot of our legal staff, and it's really a strain on us to have to put the time in of training somebody just for them to leave because they seem to have more opportunities there. We're working on professional track. I forgot what the real words are, but for our staff so that there's more room for growth. Again, we only have so many supervisor positions, but we don't want people to, feel like they're capped out with me and so then go to another department with all the knowledge that they have. Because they have more opportunities somewhere else. So it's been difficult for us to hire and fill some of our vacant positions because of COVID. These are detail-oriented positions that you need to sit side by side. I'm really referring to the clerk side more than everything else, but especially legal, but vitals. We have people who are dealing with very sensitive documents. Somebody needs to be sitting right next to somebody to learn how to do these jobs. And with COVID and the social distancing, we haven't been able, that's been an obstacle for us. So we are in the process. We are hiring people now. So that's where we're at. So for next year, as I said, I should be able to cut the position in micrographics. I already talked about that. Okay. In addition to the reduction in the expenditures, I made changes to some revenue line items by more than $900,000. I was very comfortable with that. I am someone who does not spend more than what's in their budget. And I like to meet the goals that are set for us. But I have every year made adjustments to my budget that are based on real numbers and realistic and what I think, is real. You want real numbers to work with, so do I. And like every year I have said, for instance, admissions to the bar. Every year I say it's going down, and it has. Every year it's gone down. It's just, and it's not a huge line item, but it's something that, it's a trend. It's what's happening. There's fewer attorneys that are being, admitted to the bar here. And so, it's just been on this trend. I will say, though, that the county execs team made additional changes to my budget that, quite frankly, I am not comfortable with. They added an additional $1.1 million in revenue. And I kind of feel like I'm being set up for failure. If I felt comfortable with those changes, I would have made them myself. Right now, our economy is in a very strange place. When you look at the housing market, it's a very hot market. There's very low inventory. And so houses are going for higher sale values. That bubble will pop. During COVID, because interest rates were so low, everybody was refinancing. If you didn't refinance, you really missed an opportunity. But interest rates were incredibly low. So we had so many people refinancing. We had a lot of documents coming in for that. But it's not, that's short term, right? We're not gonna continue like that. We have legislation in Lansing, there is legislation in Lansing, we don't support it, that will affect, if signed into law, affect our revenue as well. And there's in two different offices. One, in the clerk's office with legal records, there is legislation that is moving to allow everyone access to all the court records, like for free. Anybody can look at anything. There's a lot of challenges with that. There's personal identifying information. There's records that start out as public and then become non-public. And the fact that somebody might capture that and keep that out there. Expungement is a big issue right now. We've got that that we're working with. And again, somebody's going to download all this data and then sort of maybe hold somebody hostage or cyberbully somebody about, court information, that's information in court records that eventually becomes private or non-public, I should say. It's an issue, but in addition, it would affect our revenue, but there's other issues to that. Second, in the Register of Deeds office, there is a package of bills, and I would love if the county commission wanted to put in a resolution to oppose this legislation. They're called the Zillow Bills. And Zillow, you heard me right, like Zillow, the website, they want to be able to, or the package of bills proposes to allow access to electronic property records and get all that information for free, basically, or at a very reduced cost, and not taking into account, like, I have a vendor that, I pay a lot of money to, it wouldn't cover all of that. So it would be, and that package of bills actually also would impact the treasurer's office in a negative way as well. So those are very concerning to me, that there's legislation out there and I'm all about access to our records. I mean, I have the super index, and I'm very proud of that, that people can search our records for free, but being able to download copies of the entire document is a different situation. And again, if Zillow or any other big corporation like that wants to data mine our records, to me, there is, it's more of an opportunity for fraud. Legally, we are the keeper of the records, and for somebody else to purport that they have all the records, they could leave something out that changes the chain of title. They could add something in that changes the chain of title. To me, it's just very, very dangerous. So, but again, would also impact my revenue. In addition to that, we are in the process of implementing a new program with our vendor. we have had our traditional program of searching our property records. And then again, in 2014, I added the super index. And now we're kind of merging those two programs. And so how we charge folks to get documents is going to change a little bit. And and we will be bringing a resolution soon to you to take up for a new fee structure, a fee schedule for us in the Register of Deeds. And I just don't know if the Zillow bills, let's say, don't get signed into law, this will still have an impact on my budget. And I just don't know how yet, because it's something new of how we're doing this. So that's that. In addition to that, in our budget, so if you looked at our budget pages, we received, and very grateful for it, CARES Act money to help with elections, with what we did in supporting 16 of our municipalities and tabulating their absentee ballots last year at no cost to them. And I think you all know and can agree it was very successful. And again, hat to my staff in doing a great job. It was a huge undertaking. So we did have this source of revenue come in, but then the expenditures are out of individual line items. So it kind of, if you just look at it, it kind of looks funky if you look at the elections budget. But, like, why is all this money spent out of this line item when there isn't any money in this line item? But then you have all this money over here that hasn't been spent, and it's just how it has to be done. But in the future, we are now going to be charging the municipalities that we tabulate their absentee ballots for. This isn't a profit situation. It is like literal cost of what things are, and not even including everything. So there's still a cost. When my staff works overtime, we're not passing that on to the municipalities, but the workers, the notice that we have to put in the newspaper, if they want us to pick up their ballots versus them bringing them to us, different things that there are costs for. So in the future, you'll see reimbursed general, that line item will go up. But again, there's going to be expenditures in other line items, like per diem to pay the workers and things like that. Things that, revenue items that have been impacted by COVID, the marriage waivers. If you look at that's gone down a lot because, we're having people apply online. That starts the clock of the 3-day waiting period. By the time they make an appointment, all that sort of thing. So that line item is down. Passport fees, we haven't been doing passports. The federal agency was closed for quite a period of time, or only taking life and death applications. So when we have some changes to our infrastructure in elections, and our furniture and all that sort of stuff, we will be taking appointments for passports again. But for now, that's being tabled, as well as photographs, because that's passport photographs, that line item. And yeah, so I've been rambling on for 20 minutes now. So are there questions? Or let me turn it to Joe and Jenny and say, did I leave out anything that you can think of that I needed to add in? No, they'd rather have me do the talking. Okay, so any questions by the commissioners?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's start with Commissioner Long.
Hi, Clerk Brown. Nice to see you. So with your 5 positions, I think they were clerical services, the 4 of them. Are you okay still at the desk? Because I feel like I haven't been there now because of COVID, but I just feel your clerk's office still has a lot of paper and still requires a lot of people. I mean, I don't know if it's going to turn into that again, but you have a lot of traffic, and I think it will always be there, after COVID and stuff again. So I'm just concerned a little bit with the employees you cut. Is that going to put too much of a burden on the employees that are left there? Just seems like it's a lot of paperwork in your clerk's office, as you know.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. It is a lot of paperwork. A lot of it is electronic now, but that's still, we still need people to process that. So I am comfortable, and we are comfortable with the 5 that we cut. And like I said, the 1 more in micrographics, I will be comfortable with. Beyond that, I'm going to have a really hard time. And especially with the expungement changes that are coming, or once that process is implemented, we're going to need more staff for that. We don't know how the State Court Administrative Office is going to start us off, if it's just going to be one huge data dump, or if they're going to piecemeal it out to us. We have no idea. So, you know, when we know that, that will be helpful. But that is like a huge task for us that we're going to need people to be doing. So I'm comfortable with where I am right now, but anything more than that, I would not be comfortable with.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Long. Commissioner Moss, and then Commissioner Charles.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and I appreciate the work you do and the amount of services you provide. I don't quite know where to go with this, other than it sounds to me like what you're saying is that in the future, the information that costs you a lot of money to provide and to correlate and to make available, another party can come along and offer electronically, basically for free. Structurally, this sounds a lot like what my old profession, newspapers, were saying around about 1995, and Sears Roebuck was saying around about year 2000. And I don't have an answer, and I know you have to provide it by law, and if you don't have the income to do it because things are changing, but I don't know how you fight something like Zillow that can legally take the product that you make and then provide it at a cheaper rate, or maybe nothing, and then live on the advertising. This is not something that's unique to your office, and this is the first time I've heard about it applying to public sector. But yeah, it is a little disturbing, and I'm not quite sure. I've absolutely no answer to it, any more than I did when the newspapers were all saying, yeah, no one's going to listen to online because they need us. Or the bricks and mortar were saying, Amazon, it'll never work, you know. So just to say that maybe you are in uncharted waters and are going to have to you're going to have to be the ones that figure this out. If we can help you, let me know. But this is bigger than you and bigger than all of us. Sounds that way.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Moss. It's not legal right now, and data mining should not be legal. It is a huge problem, not just in Michigan, but everywhere, where another entity downloads, somebody's information and then has it all for themselves. I'm hoping, I'm on the legislative committee for the Michigan Association of County Clerks, as well as the Michigan Association of Register of Deeds, because those are, in other counties, it's 2 different elected positions. In Oakland County, we're combined here. So, but to introduce legislation to ban data mining, because it is very dangerous. And right now, Zillow, it's not legal for them to do that. They do have to pay. But they have some legislators that were willing to sponsor legislation to say, that information should be accessible without the normal charge. So that's why I said, if you guys want to pass a resolution saying you oppose the legislation, I would love that. Or whatever help.
Okay, Commissioner Moss, was that it? Okay, Commissioner Charles, did you have a question?
Yes, hi there, Clerk Brown. This is Commissioner Charles speaking. How's that fire suppression piece coming? I know that's not in the...
No, it's funny that you say that, because I did write that down, that I was going to end with that, just as you as you all work with the budget and you're working with, the ARP money and everything else, we do not have fire suppression in my office. As Commissioner Long said, we have a lot of paper here, and I know that the building is old and so it was grandfathered in, but it is very troubling. In addition to that, our lights are extremely old. The ballasts, they sometimes explode, and we've had sparks actually fall on an employee's desk, and there's a burn mark on a piece of paper. So when you do talk about infrastructure, I hope that you will look like really internally and here in the courthouse, and look at what we really need in our building. Just the minimum safety of having, new lighting and fire suppression installed over here.
Thank you for that. I just wanted that to be articulated in the record. You also raised some concerns, excuse me, as it relates to some, I don't want to say mandate, it sounds so harsh, but some things that came across to your department from the exec, and, requiring, my question to, I'm reading my notes here. My question is then to the chair. Here is, does this opportunity allow for a more in-depth study session? Again, this being my first time doing this, anytime the head of a department, I'll use for lack of a better term, says to you, I've been told I've got to do this, but I know that it's going to negatively impact on the back end. How do we handle those historically here, since this is a hearing?
Well, the hearing raises the awareness, but further action and what can we do longer term, I think, includes the executive branch and the facilities department and everybody that would have to take a real look at that. How much would it cost? When can we get it done by?
Right, and I'm not speaking fire suppression. I'm talking generally to her concerns that she raised about the I think it was like 1.4 million, Clerk Brown.
1.1.
1.1. So just things like that. I mean, I'd hate for us as a committee to recommend support of something to our body, to our wider body, knowing that it might fall short later on.
Well, I think that it needs to come through LAGO to have, like you said, a good evaluation of what the need really is.
Okay.
And the committee structure is where that discussion would take place.
Okay. And then I guess my closing comment is just simply, with so much focus on election integrity, this is not the time to hamper the ability for our elections to be accurate and safe, and that's for the staff. I'm hearing that clerks are dropping by the dozens as far as feeling safe in their jobs, and so I definitely want us to make sure that we're shoring up in that regard. So thank you. I'm all done there.
Thank you, Commissioner Charles.
Thank you. And Commissioner or Chair Markham, I think, I'm not sure. I believe what Commissioner Charles was referring to, I mean, she talked about the fire suppression, but the $1.1 million that we referenced is the additional revenue that the county execs team has put into my budget that I said I was not comfortable with. So I'm not sure if that was if you were understanding that. I'm having a hard time hearing you, Madam Chair. So I wasn't sure if you were getting, like, that was what she was referencing, was the additional revenue that that has been put into my budget without my blessing, I guess I'll say, that I'm not comfortable with.
Well, thank you for that clarification. And I do think that's a separate discussion with the executive about what are they looking for that money to be there for, and why there's a disconnect between you and them. We don't have visibility to that right now in this committee, but it's certainly something to talk about offline, I think, in a broader context. So, okay. Anything else from the commissioners? I want to talk a little bit about election security and all of that. So I know we took some extraordinary steps in the last election, and of course there was a lot of stuff happening. what do you see for the elections we're going to have in a couple of months here, and then, of course, the 2022 elections? How do you feel about that? What are we doing to support the local clerks? Can you just kind of talk overall how you see that transpiring, and do you have everything you need?
Thank you. I'll start, and Joe, if there's anything I missed, feel free to jump in. Last June, legislation was signed into law that allowed clerks to contract with us to tabulate their absentee ballots. We presented it to all of our local clerks. There was great interest. We ended up receiving 16 contracts from various locations, various municipalities, from 2 precinct municipalities to Southfield, Pontiac, like very large cities. And in November, we tabulated over 144,000 ballots. Those results were posted by 9 p.m., Joe? Yep. And which, again, Joe developed like a great, very efficient process, but it was also the ability to hire so many people to work on Election Day. And I would be remiss if I did not thank all those individuals who did sign up, not just to work in our absentee voter counting board, but in the precincts and their local AV counting boards as well. I mean, as I was saying during the 5-minute break to Commissioner Powell, elections is a team sport. And, it really takes, the administrators, but it also takes, citizens' involvement. Last year, we had an audit done by our IT department here at the county in elections. And I mean, we received top marks. There wasn't any suggested changes. We're doing everything right. When the Secretary of State implemented multi-factor authentication for access to the qualified voter file, I was the first person to sign up my entire office. It was shocking and kind of upsetting to me that others didn't jump on that. I don't need to talk about that, but so, we're doing everything as far as the security of our elections. And I sometimes I feel like a broken record, but I guess, we know that it takes multiple times for messages to sink into people. Our equipment does not touch the internet. It is unfortunate that there are a couple of individuals out there who are seriously profiting off of their misinformation and disinformation about not just the November 2020 election, but our election equipment and our election process. And as I say, election equipment, I want to also say we use Hart InterCivic. It is not Dominion. Not that there was a problem with Dominion in Antrim County. It was a clerk error. But our, election administrators across the country, including Christopher Krebs, who was the Trump appointee to CISA, said that the 2020 election was the most secure we've ever had. So our elections are secure. And, we're going to keep doing what we do. We just tabulated Pontiac's absentee ballots for the August primary. We'll be helping out again or partnering again in this November. And, we're doing everything that we can to ensure the safety of our staff, of the ballots, of everything. And, we had a public accuracy test. People are invited, that happens before every election, that our equipment is tested to make sure that, it's functioning properly, that it's tabulating correctly. And that's open to the public. That we have a canvas after. And I know, Chair Markham, you've come to the canvas to see how that works in the process. And that is open to the public. And so, it really is a very transparent process. You just have to show up, right, to see how it all works. So, everyone is always welcome to come to those and observe and see how the process works. Joe, did you want to add anything?
I'll just briefly just say that in the near 15 years I've been in this job, it's never been an environment like it is now. And aside from supporting our clerks and administering the election, we're now finding ourselves being pulled into lawsuits, being pulled into requests for forensic audits and FOIA requests for, just ridiculous amounts of information. And all of that takes resources from our office to respond to frivolous lawsuits, to provide these documents. So it's a very stressful dynamic. We've also advised our staff to take off where they work from their social media, because threats to election officials is a very real thing that's happening across our country these days. So as a protection, we've advised them, do not advertise where you work. Do not make yourself a target, because this is the environment that we're in. As Lisa mentioned, we are very confident that going forward, both this year and in 2022, we will continue to administer the county's AV board. More communities have approached us, so we're going to continue to, as we can, realistically support additional communities as our facilities and equipment will allow us to do. So we're going to do everything we can, but the things they're putting in law that are adding additional responsibilities to our office, and then all of these outside sort of distractions, really are a drain on time and resources. So we're going to keep chugging along, but as Lisa mentioned, staffing wise and whatnot, we're at our bare minimum as far as being able to function.
And I would say there's really, you hear people talking about forensic audit, like that's not a thing. And, we in Michigan have a very thorough canvass of the election before we certify our results. So that's why it says unofficial on the website until the canvassers who, you as a board choose, 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans, until everything is canvassed, until that's done, then it's official. And then after that, we participated in 2 audits of the November 2020 election. We participated in the risk limiting audit, where we submitted, I think, over 1,000 ballots from Oakland County for the risk limiting audit. And then we have procedural audits, which, we were part of the pilot program. When I first started, that was the first time they were done, was after the November 2012 election. So we've been doing this since I've been in office. And those are very detailed. Those are very in-depth, the procedural audits. And, quite frankly, I think it's a great process. It's a lot of work for us, but it has helped us to actually train our local clerks, our city and township clerks, on some issues that, maybe they were weaker on, reminding them they had to change their password on the electronic poll book, like just things like that just make our elections even better. And so there's a lot that we do, but a forensic audit is not a thing. And these people who say we want to get into your equipment, I want you to think about anything you own that's electronic. If it's your laptop or your phone, if you open that up, you take off the back, you do whatever to it, you void your warranty. And it would we spend a lot of money on our voting equipment. That's not cheap. We have over 500 precincts in Oakland County. Those are in person. I'm not even talking about the absentee counting boards and everything. So it's a lot of equipment. And, to have somebody who doesn't know anything about elections say that they want to look into the equipment or look at this or look at that, it's just, again, I'm sorry, but I'm going to be political for 1 second and just say, why would you listen to somebody who sells pillows about elections? I'm not going to tell you about what kind of pillow to buy.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I guess my question, just one small follow-up, is are you going to need more security resources going forward on election day? I mean, have you thought about that? Is there anything we at the county can be doing? That our
Oh, sorry, we
people are
already,
safe.
yeah, we already work with the sheriff's department in regards to the county board, in regards to ballot, transportation, and all that sort of stuff. They're great partners to have.
Yeah.
We're getting
Election
some
night, when I
feedback
walk-
from somebody. Oh, there we go. Okay.
when even me walking to my car after on election night, when I'm walking back to my car, the deputies won't let me walk. I mean, any other night I can walk to my car by myself, but election night, because we're here later, the deputies won't let me walk out without them escorting me out just to make sure I'm safe. So I think that we do have a great partner in our sheriff and the support that they do lend us. But will we have to step that up? That's a possibility, and that's a possibility. I hope not. I hope that things die down and people again begin to trust our program. But Joe, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say you hit it on the head, and they've done a great job of investigating the death threats that our office has received. And anytime we've needed deputies to either transport ballots or whatever, we've dealt with the undersheriff. He's been great and very helpful. So they've taken all the threats against our office very serious, and we certainly appreciate that. I don't have any concern moving into 2022 that they will not be able to assist us like they did in 2020.
Okay, that's good to hear. And I guess my last question is back on the topic of cutting your budget and cutting people. So you said you cut 5/6 people. Were those positions vacant before you eliminated them, or did you end up having to lay people off?
Oh, I would never lay off anybody. No, I mean, unless something would go horrific happen, that would be my last
Okay.
thing. No, those were vacant positions. Those were vacant positions.
All right, that's what I
And
thought.
so, and talking with my chief, thoroughly, were we comfortable in eliminating those positions? Could we be okay without those? Yes. But again, moving forward with added job duties, I don't know what else we'll be able to do in the future. Just giving a warning.
All right, appreciate that. Last call, Commissioner Moss.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I appreciate all the work that you do on the elections, and I'm very sorry to have to hear about the security concerns, because whether you agree with or do not agree with elections, to take it out on the people who are working and the people who are on the front lines is inexcusable. So anything you need on that. I wasn't going to talk about elections, but since you brought it up, I got nothing to say about Dominion voting machines or forensic audits or any of that. I have no intention of desire to overturn the election because, frankly, I won. So, no, seriously. But I do have a question, and here it is. If you look at the recent census data and go to the U.S. Census site, particularly the Quick Facts site, I have 3 communities. One is under 5,000 people, so I can't look it up there. But you look at the number of people, the gross population of either of 2 communities, and you get a number. Then underneath you have a percentage of the number of people that are under 18. And you can take that percentage off the population figures and get the number of people who are under 18, subtract it out, and you get the number of people over 18. So now even if you assume, for the sake of argument, which we know is not true, that every single human being that is over 18 is registered and voted, you'll have a number. Now, you'll get yourself a number. Now, if you go to the county clerk's website, you have a PDF which has pretty much every community, cities and townships, and it has 2 numbers. One is the eligible voters, and the number is ballots cast. And if you look at the number of eligible voters compared to the number of people that are 18 or over, both my communities, there are significantly more people that are eligible voters than there are people that are over 18. I'm not talking about other communities that we like throughout, but I'm talking about Birmingham and Bloomfield Township. In one case, one is 12%, the other is 16% of eligible voters over the number of people that we know are 18 and over. And the number of ballots cast, we have a really, really good turnout because they're in the 90% range. And that is assuming that the number of eligible voters, we're taking off every single person over 18. And we know that we have people who are not citizens, people who are resident, people who are not competent, whatever. So, but let's assume for the sake of argument that they are, everybody over 18 is A, registered, and B, puts in a vote. So that seems to me to be an interesting figure because the percentage, whether it's 12% for one or 16% for the other, in terms of gross numbers, are more than people have won elections or lost elections on. And we have upcoming elections that I happen to know in some cases are only won by 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 votes. I make no conclusion about that other than those facts exist. Who do I talk to about those facts and what if anything it means? You or locals or who?
So the qualified voter file is we at the county have limited access to that and limited duties as to the maintenance of that, maintaining it. It is on the city and township clerks to keep the voting rolls up to date. There is legislation that would allow us at the county level to remove deceased voters. Right now, we can't do that. And considering that as the clerk, the death records come to me, it makes sense that but again, this is another job duty, right? We're talking about these added job duties. That's another job duty that my staff may inherit, which we're happy to do because we do want those voting rolls to be clean. We do want deceased voters to be taken off of the rolls and everything. So, but there is list maintenance. There's a program within the qualified voter program to run, if I'm probably going to say it wrong, Joe, so jump in. If a voter hasn't voted or signed a petition or done anything active as a voter in 2 consecutive federal elections, I'm saying this right? Yes. Then they are put on, they should be put on a list. They should be sent a postcard.
That's right. The cancellation countdown.
The cancellation countdown. They should be sent a postcard from their city or township clerk that says, hey, you haven't done anything in a while in regards to your vote as a voter. Do you still live here? Do you still want to be a voter at this address? Sometimes those postcards come back because they've moved, right? Sometimes they come back and then the clerk knows, oh, well, okay, then now I can remove this person. Clearly they've moved. The postal worker, returned it to me. There's different scenarios with that, but they have to do that. They have to run that program. They have to send out those postcards. Again, that's not something we can do. The legislature has now ordered the Secretary of State to do that, right, Joe? And they are in discussions with the local clerks as to where those postcards are returned to, because the legislature was saying they should all go back. I'm sorry if I'm giving you too much information, but the legislature said we want all those postcards to go back to the Secretary of State's office, and the Secretary of State saying that's a lot for us. Let us give them to the locals so they can maintain their list. So yes, there's an issue. It's hard for us because we don't have that access, that permission, or that authority. So if this legislation does come through, though, at least with deceased voters, I think that would help a little bit.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Last call on the clerk. Okay, well, I think we're finished. Thanks very much for coming and sharing all your information with us today. Very helpful.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, we have one more group, Central Services. But I don't see Mr. Vanderveen here. Oh, he's on the screen.
Madam Chair.
Okay, cool.
Sitting
Excellent.
at the end of the table.
Okay. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Finance Committee budget hearings. Go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell us what you want to tell us, and then we might have a few questions after that.
Absolutely, thank you. We're coming to you through technology from across the street. We're in the executive office building. Should you need us there, we're 3 minutes away. But in the meantime, I have with me my two managers of the divisions in Central Services, Cheryl Bush from Aviation Transportation and Todd Burkle from Support Services. I'd like to say, Commissioners, that from the outset here, I'm very, very proud of these two individuals and the jobs they have done and the performances they've turned in this past year. It was a challenging year, as we all know, but both of these operations stayed open and delivered important service. They both have essential operations. The airport, of course, we had a lot of COVID emergency type traffic, and they both, all three airports remained open. And support services, of course, Todd takes care of the vehicles, the fleet of the county. He remained operational, including the sheriff's vehicles. And the mail was delivered without missing a beat. They both performed admirably. I want to say thank you to them in front of you. Anyway, budget. These two, both the divisions are essentially enterprise funds, except the support services does have some contact with general fund operations through our mailroom operation, record retention, and the auction. Both of these divisions have balanced budgets for next year. In Aviation and Transportation, as I think most of you are aware, we have 3 airports. We're the only local government in the state to own and operate three airports. At Oakland County International, our traffic is back 100% after the initial COVID-19 impact. In fact, the first 6 months of this year, 2021, our traffic, it was the busiest 6 months we've had in the past decade. So we're back 100%. The airport remains the second busiest in the state. I will say for the second half of the year, we'll probably experience some slowdowns because for the first time, in certainly my lifetime, we have major runway renovations going on at all 3 airports. Oakland County International's main runway, which arguably is the busiest runway in the state, is under construction right now and a rehabilitation. The one at Oakland Troy will begin in September, as will the one in Oakland Southwest. So probably our traffic will be down in the second half, but will remain operational. From support services, Todd Burkle his operations are not quite as sensational as the airport, but more mundane, but nevertheless very, very important. We've continued to acquire, maintain, and repair the county fleet. We have now 885 vehicles in the fleet. About 50% of them are sheriff vehicles. And another aspect that people don't appreciate, there's no reason to be aware of it, but 54% of our fleet are trucks for all the various departments that need trucks. Record retention, Todd is all set there, is retaining the records as required by law. The mail center, as I mentioned, we continue to deliver mail throughout the entire past year even with the COVID-19 restrictions. We have changed one area there where we're from a security standpoint. We've now centralized all the deliveries. As people come back to work in the county in the different buildings and departments, we maybe have a little challenge in keeping the centralized system, but for now it's working very, very well. the cafeteria, which is part of Todd's operations. Well, we all know what happened to the restaurants last year, and they've remained open when possible. We had to suspend our auctions last year because of COVID-19, the live auction. We will take another look at that in 2022. Conditions providing, if we're able to, we'll have the live auction, but we continue auction off surplus property online. So that's a basic overview of our operations. As I say, our budgets are balanced, and we'd be happy to respond to any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vanderveen. I will turn it over to the commission. Anybody have any questions or comments? This is going to be the easiest budget hearing of them all, I think.
I'll ask a question.
Okay, Commissioner.
You don't have to.
Hi, Mr. Vanderveen. Good to see you on video. And Ms. Bush, I remember you from our, I guess, economic development meeting. Perhaps it was about a week ago. The other gentleman's name I missed.
Todd Burkle.
Burkle, thank you. So you may have mentioned it in your robust report about how many vehicles we have in the fleet, and then if you had any folks take advantage of the voluntary employee separation in 2021.
I guess in terms of the visa program, we had one person at the airport who has been replaced, and we had two in support services. And we've replaced those two partially with the help of eliminating a part-time position. The fleet, I didn't catch the nature of the question. I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Yeah, just at a high level, if you could tell us how many vehicles are in the fleet.
Okay, there are 885 vehicles. The sheriff is the largest user at 50%, 442, all the patrol cars and vehicles in the sheriff's fleet. Water Resources Commission has 21%. Parks has about 8%. We have 67 vehicles, and facilities and operations have 48 vehicles, or about 5%. Those are the big users of the fleet in Oakland County.
Thank you, very helpful.
Is that it, Commissioner Charles? Okay, anybody else? I guess that's it for the Central Services Group. Appreciate your coming before us today, as well as, having a fine, solid report, sticking with your budget, operating our airports and our fleet and everything else very smoothly, so we don't get complaints and we have the services we need. Really appreciate it. I guess the only point I would make is the same point I made last year for Mr. Burkle, and that is, as we look to replace vehicles, that 885, whenever possible, be looking at electric vehicles going forward. And
we are doing that. I'll let Mr. Burkle explain in detail.
Yes, exactly. Today we've only put 2 electric vehicles into the fleet, but I expect to see that continue on an upward trend as more products become available. Actually, in late September, I'm going to a conference with General Motors. I'm on their Law Enforcement Product Council, and I'm told they're going to have an electric patrol vehicle for us to take a look at. I'm not sure if it's going to be an actual pursuit rated vehicle, but there also been talk this fall at the Michigan State Police testing that we expect to see some electric vehicles being tested with the regular fossil fuel burning control vehicles.
Todd also has installed some charging stations at the garage, and we have 2 at the airport.
Yes.
Yeah, we need about 200 of them all over the county. But I appreciate that, Mr. Burkle. It's really good to hear that you're out in front on all of that. Thank you. And with that,
Thank you.
I think we are finished with the budget hearings. I know Lynn Sonkus is with us to talk about the amendments. All of the
Thank you.
commissioners got a copy of the amendments today, is that correct? Thank you to Central Services for coming before us today.
Thank you, folks.
Thank
you.
Pleasure.
Just a quick update on today's report. There's only one item that's been added to the amendment list. It's item A9, and that reflects a resolution that was adopted by the board on August 5th for a grant for the health department of almost $70,000. We did make other couple minor changes to the report to reflect that on the title, indicating that this is a summary of budget amendments, not just finance committee amendments, and reflected within section A all of the originating committees in which those resolutions were generated from.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Sonkus? Very helpful. Thank you very much. Commissioner Charles.
A question for the chair. So I've been anxiously awaiting an opportunity to find out our next budget hearing includes, it says Board of Commissioners. So I was just curious, is there an ebb and flow there? Are we to suggest things to the, how does that really work?
Well, the exercise we're going through with the special projects ideas, that's a piece of it. The other piece of it is the whole administration of the Board of Commissioners, the normal stuff, our staff and the building maintenance and all of that. So those are the two pieces of it. We will have a review just like this next week.
Right. So I guess it's Patty Dibb then who would report out, and we would say, how many people worked remote and little things like that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Sounds good. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Anybody else? All right. If there's no other business to come before this board, I declare this meeting adjourned at 1:42.